Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. If this is your first time joining me, then I'm very excited that you are here on my channel. If you've been with me from the beginning or somewhere along the journey, I am super glad you're returning. Today is story time, or the day of our chapter exchange. I read you a chapter, you send me a chapter. If you're writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then send your chapters with written permission to writewithmichaela@gmail.com. I will post the email address at the end of the video and in the description below. I'm looking forward to reading your chapters. Excuse me, got something in my eye. Okay. All chapters or writing prompts read on the channel, whether they are mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. This story is PG-13, so if you're under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance. This story is in its rough draft stage, just as the last stories we've heard. The title of this story is Elloni's Pride. And today we're reading chapter 2 out of book 3. If you would like to read along, then send to the email I stated earlier and request a PDF of the chapter. Make sure you are specific, and that offer is for any script that I do. It could be a Tuesday script with the vocabulary, or it could be a Friday script with the story. So just tell me which one you want. Be specific. Now let's start. Elloni's Pride, book 3, Gaining Freedom, chapter 2. More appreciation, more dragons. Libya and Elloni readily agreed to go with Cinder and 10 of his dragons. 9 of Cinder's dragon riders were also going. Cinder's group had been learning charms alongside the linkers and the soldiers. Some of them were more proficient than others, so Cinder chose 9 who could extend a charm over an extra rider. 12 citizens, or 12 people, had raised their hands to go, but when 2 learned that they were actually riding dragons, they backed out and asked the ones going to bring back a report. Once the 11 dragons lifted off, Daunter was thinking about making more saddles, but Felicity fluttered up beside him and softly thought, "I know you want to help the people, but they need to do things for themselves, especially since they are so restless. King Fayrite speaks to them often, but they don't believe. Several tailors have already left back to our main throstle." Daunter hung his head. "I know, but I should be useful too." At that, Felicity got an idea. She gathered many tailors together to plan a ruse battle with some linkers, which they would carry out that afternoon. When they came out of the haze, Cinder expected them to be near or in a kingdom, but all he saw was a field, and ahead he saw several dragons with blacks on their backs. He instantly wanted to turn around, but Elloni was landing, and the other dragons were landing behind her. None of the dragons landed too close to the dragons ahead in the field, and Cinder's group helped their extra riders down. Cinder said to them, "Let me find out where we are." He walked toward Libya. He whispered to her, "What's going on?" Libya turned to him. She was now a tall, slender maiden of 15. "I don't usually approach them in my body. I night walk to them." Cinder motioned. "So you're saying those dragons are now off the potions, and they're probably lost and looking for their prior rider?" "Possibly," replied Libya. "Do you know where we are?" pressed Cinder. "We weren't flying long. Are we near our mountains?" Libya shrugged. "I don't know the land, especially coming out of the haze." Libya looked at the dragons and started walking slowly and cautiously towards them. Cinder wanted to call her back, but Dacia put her hand on his arm. Elloni is here, and she didn't stop Libya. I don't know. I guess I don't believe King Damantade just ran out of potions. That would be awesome, but, said Cinder. I understand, replied Dacia. Libya approached the first dragon and thought with it. Hello, I'm Libya. I'm Elloni's rider. Who are you? The dragon raised its head, which startled Cinder. The dragon looked around and then noticed Libya. The dragon leaned down to Libya and thought to her, Please help me. I'm looking for my rider, Grandbass, but I feel he is dead. Libya looked toward Cinder and asked, Do we know a Grandbass? Cinder repeated the name to himself a few times. He felt like the name was familiar to him, but he couldn't recall at the moment. He looked at his group. One of his members suddenly exclaimed, Ah, yes! Grandbass was the leader of the King's dragon riders. Was he a linker? Libya thought the question to the dragon and confirmed that Grandbass was a linker. Dacia whispered, Could that mean we are near Kalmesh Kingdom? Cinder spun around and looked at the field behind him. Then he motioned to two riders to briefly scout around in the air. They mounted and flew off. Libya bonded with the 12 dragons, and the two riders reported that they were a little south and east of Kalmesh Kingdom. Cinder suddenly understood Brosser. He would have never thought they were that far from the mountains in that short amount of time. The dragons stayed in the field for now, and they would fly in the haze when the group returned north. Libya and Elloni reassured the dragons that they would do everything they could to help the dragons find their riders. The group flew to Kalmesh, and Cinder's group walked the other people around the kingdom and told of its glory. Some in Cinder's group could tell of the last battle. They remembered when King Damantade's soldiers pretty much demolished their kingdom. As they walked around, Cinder noticed that some burn marks seemed to be fresh. He shook his head. It seemed like King Damantade was coming back to keep checking for people. He thought of Hoshman. That man often had good ideas, and he was the one that asked about going north. Cinder didn't know why King Damantade checked the same places over and over again, and he didn't check north. But Cinder was glad King Damantade hadn't checked north so far. Before they left, Cinder and his group walked out the north gate, and they headed west to their mountain caves, where they had lived for close to 10 years. The people with Cinder's group realized the destruction and some of their fortune, but they would have a better understanding after the group visited Troutsimmer Kingdom and Dropknot Kingdom. When the group left, they first flew back to the field, and the dragons lifted into the air to join them. Then the group stopped in Troutsimmer Kingdom, where they found 6 more dragons. And then they stopped in Dropknot Kingdom, where they found 4 more dragons. Libya was happy. She didn't want the dragons to keep having to take potions, but she didn't know how to stop it. Now with finding these 22 dragons today, she knew that they were no longer taking the potion. She hoped she would find more, but she didn't know. She found the first 20 with one thinking to Elloni. Then in the haze they found more. But after that she didn't find dragons for 2 years, and she only found 5. And it was another year and a half before she found more. She couldn't keep up with how many they had, but she knew her pa would be happy if he could somehow see all the dragons. Finally, they arrived back to the mountains as the sun was going down, and as the Linkers had finished their mock battle with the tailors, providing magical targets. The men that had gone with Cinder's group told their families and friends all the destruction they witnessed. Some of the people remembered Troutsimmer Kingdom, but they had forgotten. Some of the men also added that they had seen fresh burn marks. One man said he saw smoldering ashes. The next few days, the people settled down, and Broman started teaching the new dragons alongside the other dragons, while Clef 4 saw to their care, and he promised them he would not ever give them a potion again. Okay, writers, that is the end of chapter 2. It was a short chapter. Leave a comment on how you would feel coming out of the haze. Would it disorient you? Leave a comment on if you would trust the dragons coming off potions. Also, leave a comment on if you would believe the destruction of the other kingdoms, or are you someone that just want to see things for yourself. Now, some of these people, they lived in King Phaerite's kingdom, then they evacuated to the cave. It might have been better to take them to King Phaerite's kingdom, but that's kind of close to King Damantade, so they probably didn't want to do that. But they remembered, how their kingdom was built. Then they went to a cave, and then they went to Tralsummer Kingdom, and they only saw Tralsummer Kingdom for a short period. So if you had been one of those people, would you believe the destruction of Tralsummer, Dropknot, Kamesh? Would you believe the destruction of all those kingdoms unless you saw it? Would you have to see it? And then again, you can remember what you had before all living in the cave, and you might just kind of jump over that brief time in Tralsummer Kingdom, and it would be very easy to push that memory to the side and just remember what you had before. So that's something to deal with when you're talking about differences. Some of these people they're not gonna think that they were in such danger. They're not gonna remember why they left. They're not gonna believe the destruction is real. So leave comments on how you would feel, or how you think people would feel if they had lived in the kingdom for so long, and King Phaerite paid the taxes, and the other people didn't really know that the King Damantade was visiting so often, or what have you, and taking things. So just you need to think of all the perspectives that you can when you're writing a story, so that people get the full immersion of what's going on. Join me Tuesday for lots of vocabulary. Join me Friday for chapter 3 of Elloni's Pride, Gaining Freedom. Visit my website, bymckella.com, read some character bios. If you read some, then leave a comment on which ones you've read, or go read a blog post on my coach's blog, authorkristenlam.com, and leave a comment on a blog you read and how you think the post will help you with your writing. I'm sure you can find one, because she's got over a couple thousand, so 2,000, 3,500, something. Go read something. And her perspective is going to be different from mine. You're going to glean something from her that you could not glean from me. You can post that in the comment, and we can share that comment amongst ourselves. All your comments will help us, all of us, start conversations and build our community. Keep all comments respectful, and remember that is someone else's perspective. That someone else's perspective can help you with your writing. You may not agree with their perspective, but it's a perspective. It's out there. It's part of life. It's who we are as people. And the more you can kind of see somebody else's perspective, the more volume and depth that you can add to your stories. And the more your readers are going to enjoy it. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and the bell, so we can continue to write together, and other people will have a higher chance of finding this channel and this video, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. This is Mckella with Write with Mckella. Bye for now.